Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and yesterday I broke the unfortunate news that the Mount Olympus drop rates for the Zeus and Senator gear was slashed considerably. And, I yapped and whined and bitched and moaned for about 22 minutes when, and I completely lost sight of something that I try to do every single time I make a video like that on this channel, and that is propose a solution. Because with a change as egregiously horrible as this, there needs to be a solution that the developers can look towards, and something that we can sort of point them in the right direction is what I'm trying to get at with this. Because in that video, I talked a lot about how the drop rates were slashed. It's got all of these awful implications going forward, but I didn't see the silver lining in it. And you're gonna say, well, Gold, what makes you think there's a silver lining in cutting the drop rates down to nothing? And to that, I'm going to tell you exactly what I've got in mind for this fix. So, as suspected, and as was confirmed in the comments by a good few people, the Calcos Coppersmith NPC out in the Garden of Hesperides does now give you the option to craft the Zeus set with Olympian Dust, which is the reagent that drops from, like the Aquila dungeons. So the Olympian Dust reagent drops from Zeus, and it is a little excessive, the amount that you need to craft this or the Zeus gear being 160, and Zeus can only drop up to 25 per run. But I've been thinking, and I think that the best solution to this is going to be to, one, buff or maybe not even buff, but like make other bosses in Mount Olympus drop Olympian Dust, so that way Zeus can drop like maybe 25 consistently, which I guess would be a buff, but Apollo could drop 20, or not, maybe not 25, but maybe 10. Ares could drop 10 to 15. The Centaur fight and the Praetorian Guard, those could drop 5, for example. And it's just, there's all these fights that could give you a consistent gain of Olympian Dust reagents in order to craft the gear. Now, the main caveat is the fact that at the moment, the badge Zeus Luciner requires you to defeat Zeus in Mount Olympus 35 times, which is, if memory serves, the most amount, this is the highest amount of times that you have to defeat any boss to unlock a badge, to unlock crafting with, rather. And so this is this is way too much. And I was thinking, and some people suggested this in the comments on yesterday's video as well, but I was thinking, what if this was reduced down to maybe 10 runs, 15 tops, and the drop rates on the Zeus gear were to, hold on, let me get back to it, but like the drop rates on the Olympian Dust throughout Mount Olympus could be buffed. I think that would be pretty good, pretty cool, I think that is definitely the way to do it. Sisyphus Stone Thrower is a much quicker farm for Olympian Dust, but it is a level 90 boss, so, and it's got some annoying cheat cycle, so, just sort of buffing what you can get in the level 30 Mount Olympus dungeon, I think, is the way to go. Because, if Zeus, like to unlock the crafting recipes at Calcos Coppersmith, if you just had to defeat Zeus 10 times and your Olympian Dust was dropped at a good rate, it's like, I think if that were to be the case, then like these drop rates wouldn't be so bad anymore, because eventually it would become a Wallaru style farm, and that honestly isn't that bad. Like Wallaru style farms, you know, it does take a lot of farming to like craft the specific piece. Like you need 10 Mr. Montgomery defeats, you need 15 Fleets defeats, which I think is excessive, but you also need 15 Nightmare and Malice defeats in order to craft the clothes, the Reaver clothes and Reaver boomerangs. And this is why I'm a little optimistic about this solution to this problem, is because in February of 2024, shortly after the Nightmare update released, about 2 to 3 weeks after, the developers moved the requirement, or lowered the requirement rather, to craft the Reaver clothes and boomerangs from 25 Malice defeats down to 15. That was much more reasonable. It's still excessive if you ask me. It should be like maybe 10 tops, but 15 was much more reasonable than 25. And so that I think was a good move on their end, and was I was grateful that they did that, and so was most of the community. So that, I think, the fact that it's happened before in the past, I think that does lend some credence to the idea that they might do it again for Mount Olympus, and I think that is what we need to push the developers towards. It's like that idea of just sort of reducing the number of times you have to beat Zeus, and this also can apply for Atlantia and Tartarus. Tartarus especially is going to be like much, I guess, better and much more worth farming, by the way, if this change were to hit, because you have to defeat Poseidon and Hades both 20 times in order to unlock their respective badges. So I think if maybe Poseidon could just come down to 10. I'm not really looking to farm Atlantia for anything, but Tartarus is, to my knowledge, the longest dungeon in the game. I think defeating Hades 5 times is already a little presumptuous, but defeating Hades 5 times to unlock crafting his gear, I think that would be just fine. But maybe that's just me. I think that would be a good place to start, and so that would make the Aquila dungeons much more, I guess, accessible, and that I think is just the way to do it. That's how I think KingsIsle should go about this, because the main thing with, you know, the drop rates being slashed is just the fact that it really hurts progression that much. It's really just, it hurts that early game progression. And I have been notified that Dragonspire and Celestia have received considerable nerfs, which means, you know, like storm bosses can't crit on you anymore and just straight up kill you, which I think is a good change. But those worlds are still hard if you don't have good gear. And I think that making gear more accessible, especially if it's done in such a way that KingsIsle has, you know, done before with Wallaru and seen positive feedback on, I think, you know, that's I think it's a step in the right direction, because if Zeus Loosener became, you know, defeat Zeus 10 times, 15 at the upper maximum, because that is still a lot of farming. Most people, prior to this update, they weren't going to farm Zeus 10 times, but some people might still farm Zeus 10 times, and that would be enough to craft the full set, as well as, you know, maybe get some gear for your other wizards if you plan on making any. This mostly is just a first time experience kind of thing that I think that they should do, because if you've got plenty of, well, actually no, it's all, this 35 times requirement would only apply to the max levels who would help people on the sigil, but maybe that's just me. I think that Reducing the defeat requirement for the Zeus Loosener badge down to 10, like I said. Reducing the Poseidon badge down to 10, in case anybody is interested in the Atlantia gear for whatever reason. And then reducing the Hades gear down to 5, or at least the Hades badge down to 5. That would fix this colossal issue that KingsIsle just sort of, like, pulled out of their asses for this update. And that would become, it would be just much better. It would be a way better experience. And I think that it is a healthy thing that they could apply to the other dungeons early, or I guess kind of early in the game, early to mid game. Because if they applied this to Waterworks, you know, I think like a guaranteed way to get the, to get all the gear, that would be good. Like within 10 runs, give or take. The same with Darkmoor, because I know for a fact in Darkmoor I am, you know, in the trenches every single time in Darkmoor, trying to farm for that gear. Little known fact about me: my Myth Wizard, I farmed for the Kandavasi Victor's Hood from like the time I hit level 100, and I did so many runs. I think I did more than 40 runs of Darkmoor and never got it until I hit like level 126 when I just did a run on a whim one day, and that was ridiculous. So I think if they were to take this Wallaru style farm and then apply it to all of these other dungeons, that is the way to fix this issue. Because right now, as I outlined to the greatest degree in my video yesterday, the drop rates being what they are, slashed completely, and, you know, a major time sink to be able to craft the gear as it stands, is awful and will hurt the new user experience. But if it becomes easier to, you know, craft the gear, not even easier, just quicker to craft the gear, that would make early game progression that much better. Because I don't want to be waiting until, you know, Winter Tusk crafted gear at level 56 to start actually doing damage. it's like, come on, man. Especially Winter Tusk, by the way. It's like if you're going into Winter Tusk without at least like Olympus gear, you are fried. And getting all the way to Sudgerland to be able to craft that new gear, it's a whole thing. And so I think this is just what they need to do. This is how KingsIsle redeems themselves for putting forth, without any mention in the patch notes, the single worst change in the 2020s. Maybe past 2020. But ever since... since the 4th arc began, pretty much, this has been the singular worst change that KingsIsle has made to the game. And it can be turned into a positive thing under their new framework, if they spring for it. And that's going to be the big part, because usually the devs don't spring for things like this. But if they do, then the farming experience might even become better than what it was before the patch. Because I know for a fact, I did like a playthrough. We never got past Dragonspire, but me and 2 of my buddies, we started a playthrough of the game about like a year or so ago. And when we got to level 30, one of my friends really wanted the full Zeus set, but for the life of him, he could never get the rope. And my other friend and I, we got all of our full Zeus sets like totally fine, but he really, really wanted that robe, and we were maybe 25 runs in, and he still hadn't gotten the robe. So, if the badge, like I said, were to be reduced down to 10, then people could, you know, get their Olympian dust in whatever way they wish. Maybe they'll be short on it for, you know, future gear pieces and whatnot, but they could at least have the option to craft the gear way quicker than they currently can. 35 times is insane. It is, I don't know who came up with this number, but it is atrocious. I mean, I don't think they know how long a Mount Olympus run takes. It is like 20 minutes. And I mean, because there's the Apollo fight, there's the Hades fight. Those are the not Hades, the Apollo fight, the Ares fight. Those are the 2 bosses, and then there's 2 more fights against like elite mobs. So it's like 5 minutes per boss, maybe 2 to 3 minutes per elite fight. And then add like another 5 minutes walking around looking for those damn eagles. And then add like 5 minutes for the Zeus fight. You're looking at over 20 minutes for one run of Mount Olympus. And I think that, 35, let me see here, 35 times 20. That is 700 minutes. And I think I did these, I think I looked at this number in the last video as well, but just look back at it again, that is 11 hours and 40 minutes of running Mount Olympus if you want to get this badge. Are we serious? I mean, of course it's going to be shorter if you have a max level with you, but I mean, once the hype with this Aquila update dies down and the spellaments are all kind of obtained and whatnot, then it's going to be back to level 30s exclusively running Mount Olympus, and they are not going to be able to get their gear, which is a whole issue. Unless King's Offsprings for this change reduces the requirement down to 10 runs, and again, 15 at the upper maximum, and makes the Zeus drop rate for the Olympian Dust Reagent at like 20 to 25, and then the bosses, Apollo and Ares, 10 to 15, the elite fights, 5 tops. That is how they fix this update, and that is what they need to do. I think I've said my piece at this point. This is just what they've got to do to save themselves in this update, because these requirements for the badges are ridiculous and seriously need to be repealed, but they won't be repealed because it's King's Isle we're talking about. So the best way to go about it is to work within their current framework, their new framework with this update, and make it good. They've already done it in the past, like I mentioned with the Nightmare Dungeon and the Malice badge, so they just need to do it again and they'll be golden. That's what they need to do. That's on them to implement at this point in time, and it's my hope that they do this in a timely manner, because the difference between the drop rates now and before the update are immense. I mean, so many people have looked at my comment section. 11 minutes ago I got this comment saying, bro, I thought it was just me. I was gearing up a new Wiz and I got Zeus gear for Life School on my Death Wiz and I was confused, like what the heck. And this is a widespread thing. So I already outlined all my grievances with this in the last video, so now it's just on KI to do this and fix it for good. And if we like what they do, maybe they'll do, reasonable badge requirements for Waterworks. Maybe they'll do reasonable badge requirements for, Darkmoor. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, they will finally fix the alchemical extract reagent problem that Catacombs was plagued by this whole time. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just the kid in me hoping they'll fix that at long last. But who can say for sure? For now, though, I like the style of it. It's just too much at the moment. So for them to compensate for the shattered drop rates that they sort of brought upon us with this update, I've laid it all out. They just need to do it. So thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.